President Trump hinted at a possible diplomatic solution to end the conflict with Iran, suggesting major points of agreement. However, Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf immediately denied any diplomatic talks and continued retaliatory strikes against Israel. The U.S. and Israeli military operations against Iran intensified, targeting Iranian drones and missiles across the region. The military accused Iran of hiding launchers among civilians, urging them to stay indoors for safety. In the international energy market, Brent crude prices dropped nearly 20% in response to the diplomatic overture. Despite this, the conflict's intensity has been reduced somewhat, with Iran firing fewer weapons in recent weeks compared to last summer's conflict. As the situation remains tense, both sides continue to evaluate the potential for a diplomatic resolution while maintaining military readiness. The next step will likely involve further communication and negotiation to determine the path forward. A commercial airliner collided with a fire truck on the runway at LaGuardia Airport late last night. This results in the deaths of 2 pilots and injuries to multiple passengers and staff. The National Transportation Safety Board is now on site to investigate the cause of the incident. The collision occurred minutes before midnight and has led to a reduction in airport capacity as the investigation unfolds. The incident highlights ongoing issues within the U.S. air traffic control system, which has been under stress due to understaffing and mandatory overtime. Aviation analysts are concerned about the reliability of the runway status light system, designed to prevent such collisions. The system may be under scrutiny to determine if it was functioning properly at the time of the incident. As investigations continue, LaGuardia Airport remains at reduced capacity, affecting travel plans for many passengers. The broader implications of the collision underscore the need for improvements in air traffic control infrastructure and staffing levels to enhance safety. The Trump administration has deployed hundreds of ICE agents to major U.S. airports to assist TSA during staffing shortages, impacting operations at airports like New York, Chicago, Houston, and Atlanta. According to sources, ICE agents are providing a visible presence and helping with perimeter security, but are not trained to perform TSA tasks such as operating metal detectors or X-ray machines. Currently, 12% of TSA officers are absent, leading to long security lines and disruptions. John Sandweg, a former ICE director, explains that ICE agents are traditionally present at border airports but have never before been used at TSA checkpoints. He warns that deploying ICE agents at these checkpoints could lead to chaos if immigration enforcement activities are carried out, potentially detaining individuals with legal rights to be in the country. As the situation unfolds, it remains unclear how these deployments will affect airport security and traveler experiences in the coming days. President Trump has rejected a Senate proposal to fund the Department of Homeland Security without including funding for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE. This comes as the partial shutdown of the TSA has now reached the 40-day mark. The proposal would have allowed the TSA and other critical agencies to resume operations, but without ICE funding, a compromise that Republicans had considered to break the deadlock. However, in a phone call with Senate Majority Leader John Thune, President Trump made it clear he is not interested in this solution. Polling data suggests growing public dissatisfaction with Republicans over the lack of progress in funding TSA and addressing airport security issues. As the shutdown continues, TSA workers may miss a month of paychecks, adding to the pressure for a resolution. The deployment of ICE agents to airports has complicated negotiations further, with Democrats increasingly blaming Republicans for the ongoing problems. The upcoming congressional recess and potential worker dissatisfaction could intensify the push for a compromise, but no immediate resolution is in sight. A replica Christopher Columbus statue has been placed on the grounds of the Eisenhower Executive Office building, adjacent to the White House. The statue was originally toppled during protests in 2020 and thrown into Baltimore's Inner Harbor. President Donald Trump views the statue placement as a symbolic move to honor Columbus and celebrate a traditional view of his role in history. The statue represents a continuation of Trump's efforts to recognize Columbus as a historical figure despite recent movements to acknowledge Indigenous Peoples Day instead. The placement of the statue near the White House highlights ongoing debates over the representation of Columbus in the United States. Some see it as a political statement, while others view it as a step to protect and celebrate a traditional historical perspective. John Pica, president of Italian-American Organizations United, which owns the statue, welcomed the placement. This emphasizes the statue's significance in recognizing Columbus as a hero. The statue's return to prominence reflects the broader narrative of the Trump administration to emphasize a historical perspective that aligns with traditional views of American history. With the statue now in place, the debate over Columbus's legacy continues. This underscores the political and cultural significance of historical figures in today's America. The Supreme Court heard arguments this week in a case challenging the legality of counting mail-in ballots received after Election Day, if postmarked by Election Day. The Republican National Committee argues this undermines election integrity, while several states allow such ballots to be counted. The case centers on federal election law and its impact on state voting procedures. The court's decision, expected in June, could reshape voting rules and influence the upcoming midterm elections. Currently, 14 states and the District of Columbia permit counting postmarked ballots received after Election Day. A ruling against this practice could prompt changes in state election laws and voter strategies ahead of the midterms. Israel reportedly used hacked Iranian surveillance cameras to track and target high-ranking officials, including Iran's leadership, during a recent operation. The cameras, which were installed across Tehran to monitor dissent and enforce mandatory dress codes, were compromised, potentially aiding intelligence efforts. Cybersecurity experts warn that such reliance on insecure surveillance technology poses significant national security risks. Iran has faced repeated hacking of its surveillance networks since 2021, with officials previously warning about the security threats posed by compromised cameras. Recent advances in AI enable rapid sifting through surveillance footage to identify and track targets. This highlights the vulnerability of surveillance systems to cyberattacks. This underscores the strategic use of hacked technology in modern warfare, turning Iran's own surveillance tools against them. The extent of the operation and its full impact remain under investigation, with further verification needed regarding specific details and timelines. Global fuel prices are surging, putting pressure on budgets around the world. In Argentina, taxi driver Luis Catalano says he's barely managing to keep up with the rising costs. Meanwhile, in Germany, road safety worker German Toledo has seen his salary stagnate for 5 years. This makes it harder to make ends meet. In Nigeria, consumer Felicia Iwasa notes that everything is getting more expensive. Across the globe, in the Philippines, jeepney drivers Johnny Pagnato and Sandy Ronio are cutting back on expenses and worrying about long-term impacts like affording education for their children. The price for a barrel of Brent crude fell 9.7% to $101.26 after U.S. President Donald Trump's claims of potential breakthroughs in Iran talks. However, this has yet to translate into lower fuel prices at the pump. Drivers in the Philippines, for instance, are facing higher diesel costs that are straining their livelihoods. As fuel prices continue to rise, individuals are being forced to cut back on non-essential expenses to cope. The financial strain on average people is likely to persist unless there are significant changes in global oil markets or economic policies. With fuel costs remaining high, the daily struggles of individuals across different countries highlight the broader trend of rising costs and economic challenges affecting lower-income individuals worldwide. The European Union and Mercosur bloc, consisting of Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay, are set to begin their landmark free trade agreement on May 1, 2026, after more than 25 years of negotiations. This deal, which accounts for 25% of global GDP, aims to reduce economic dependencies on China and the United States. For the EU, Paraguay's formal approval triggered the start date. That's despite opposition from farmers and environmentalists in some EU countries. The European Commission bypassed the European Parliament's initial objections to proceed with the deal, asserting that it is vital for the EU's survival in a world marked by geopolitical tensions and economic uncertainties. The agreement is seen as a strategic move to strengthen trade and economic resilience. However, it could be halted if the European Court of Justice rules against it, though this scenario is not confirmed yet. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has described the deal as essential for Europe's future. This emphasizes its importance for growth and resilience in a newly disordered world. Historic preservation groups have filed a lawsuit against President Donald Trump, the Kennedy Center, other administration officials to halt significant physical changes planned for the landmark venue. The coalition argues that these alterations should undergo standard review processes to preserve the historical integrity of the Kennedy Center. The lawsuit targets the renovation plans that were announced earlier this year during the center's 2-year closure. Trump's administration maintains that the renovations are necessary to modernize the Kennedy Center and enhance its status as a premier performing arts venue. However, the coalition claims that the changes could cause irreversible damage to the site's historical fabric. The legal challenge comes as part of a broader effort by preservationists to prevent unauthorized changes to historic buildings in the Washington, D.C. area. Previous legal battles over similar actions, such as the East Wing of the White House, have resulted in mixed outcomes. Questions remain about the balance between modernizing cultural institutions and preserving their historical significance. The outcome of this case could have implications for future renovations at historic sites across the Capital District. The Supreme Court has rejected the appeal of Texas-based citizen journalist Priscilla Villarreal, known as LaGuardia, in her lawsuit against police officers and officials over her arrest for seeking non-public information. Justice Sonia Sotomayor dissented, stating the arrest violated the First Amendment. Villarreal was arrested in 2017 after seeking and publishing non-public information about a suicide and a car accident. A state judge had previously dismissed the criminal case against her, ruling the law used to arrest her was unconstitutional. The case highlights tensions between law enforcement and free press rights. The ruling leaves open questions about the extent of legal immunity for officials in similar cases. This raises concerns among media organizations and free speech advocates. Justice Sotomayor's dissent underscores the ongoing legal implications for First Amendment protections and journalist rights. This emphasizes the need for clearer guidelines on the boundaries of legal immunity for officials.